Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Kettering Planning Commission for Monday, August 5th, 2024. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Miami Valley Cable Council for televising and taping tonight's meeting for rebroadcast on Channel 6 and streaming live over the internet at mvcc.net. It will also be recorded and available for later viewing on mvcc.net. Since this meeting is both audio and videotaped to form a complete record for possible appeal to City Council and/or the courts, it is important that anyone who wishes to address the Commission will need to come to the lectern to speak into the microphone and give their name and address for the record. The Planning Commission is a volunteer, independent body appointed by Council, whose mission is to hear all bodies involved and subsequently make a motion to approve, deny, continue, or recommend the application. All action by the Commission can be appealed to the City Council. At this time, I'd like to introduce members of the Planning Commission. On my far left, Ken Lackey, our Assistant Secretary. Next to him is Carol Fisher, our Secretary. On my immediate left is Connie Gaw, our Recording Secretary. I'm Don Rethman, the Chair. On my right is Troy Urbis, Vice Chair, and on his right is Ray Waskey, Commissioner. Members of staff present this evening: Tom Robillard, Director of Planning and Development, Ryan Homsey, City Planner, and David Roller, City Planner. First item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes of July 15th, 2024. Do we have any Commissioner comments on the minutes as presented here this evening? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Waskey?
Yes.
Mr. Lackey?
Yes.
Mr. Urbis?
Yes.
Mr. Rethman?
Yes. Item number 2 on the agenda here is a conditional use for 940 East David Road, Alter High School. It is PC-24-005. This is a public hearing which is continued. Mr. Roller.
Thank you, Mr. Rethman. We have received an application from the applicant requesting conditional use amendment. As you just mentioned, this is a continuation of a May 20th Planning Commission case in which the applicant is seeking approval of a parking lot expansion at Alter High School's campus. You see it there on the screen. It's in the top right-hand corner. That is the northeast quadrant of the campus, nearest the David Road and Renwood Drive intersection. They are requesting an expansion from 45 existing spaces to accommodate a total of 173 spaces in that particular parking lot. This request is a conditional use amendment. It is an existing conditional use, and this is an amendment to that. The scope of that constitutes a major change as defined in Section 115311 of the City of Kettering Zoning Code. That means that it requires a Planning Commission public hearing with a decision by the Planning Commission. Planning Commission is authorized to approve with conditions, continue, table, or deny the request. The scope of that is that the Planning Commission may make any of the standards that would be used to mitigate potential negative impacts to the proposed development more restrictive, but they may not waive any of the code requirements. So you can, introduce a new standard. You can make something more restrictive if you feel that that's appropriate to mitigate a negative impact, but we can't waive anything tonight. Just a reminder for everyone here. As we said, this is a continuation of the May 20th, 24 meeting. At that meeting, Planning Commission heard concerns regarding traffic flow and safety, and they requested a traffic analysis be prepared by the applicant. At that time, we said that we would continue the case once we received that information back. We did receive that analysis back from the applicant, and we have shared that with you as well. We are in agreement with the findings and the recommendations that were put together by the consultant. And those are, the first item that they found was that we should retain the current on-street parking with a renewed effort for enforcement to make sure that those spaces aren't parked in, the ones that are not supposed to be. The second item that they had was to direct the on-site traffic for more efficient circulation. Third was to stagger the school start times to reduce congestion. So basically, the start time for Alter High School and for St. Charles Elementary, the time between those two start times would be increased. That would reduce some of the peak demand for those two operations. The other was to restrict left turns for vehicles exiting at the main access or the main egress point there at David Road to reduce congestion with the traffic at David and Ackerman. And then finally add some more stacking spaces for left turns that are coming from David into the new expanded parking lot. Just a little bit of quick background on this. This follows some recent expansions from 2008 and 2017. In 2008, there was a variance that was needed to allow those improvements to the athletic field and to the central parking area. There were some conditions placed on those, on the use of that. They were fairly extensive. We are aware that there are larger plans for development at Alter High School, but tonight we are only focused on the parking lot. That's the only proposal that has been put forward, and so that's what we are able to act upon and to comment upon tonight. At this point, I think I'd like to turn the presentation over to the applicant. They've prepared a presentation, and some of the items in the presentation which we received are different from what is in the conditional use proposal that we had given to the commission. Those items that are different, the applicant will be highlighting those, and we will also call attention to them when we get to our portion of the presentation again. But wanted to make sure that those items were addressed now so that there would be less confusion later. So with that,
Thank you. My name is Lourdes Lambert. I'm the principal and CEO at Archbishop Alter High School at 940 East David Road. Tonight, I'd like to present some of the findings from the study that we've done, along with Jason Sheets, I'm sorry, you can't hear.
Can't hear her.
is that microphone on?
It says it's green.
We'll see if the,
It is.
okay,
Use my principal voice.
there you go.
Okay.
Use your outside voice.
So Jason Sheets, who's our architect for the project, will also be presenting some of the findings with us. So
Is
if
that
we,
better? Still need more?
okay.
That's as loud as it gets.
We can go on. The first thing that I'd like to point out, and if you could go one more, Mr. Roller, I would appreciate it, is that last Tuesday, July 30th, we held a neighborhood meeting on campus in the theater at Alter High School. We mailed out through a mail house 200 letters inviting our neighbors to come and learn more about the project. We had 20 neighbors that signed in and participated, and we had 3 stations. And the 3 stations were based on the 3 major areas of concern that we heard at the Planning Commission meeting on May 20th. It was a landscaping station, a traffic station, and a lighting station. And all the stations had experts to speak to those 3. There were storyboards and there were questions answered. In addition, I was present, as well as 2 other administrators at Alter High School, to answer any questions about the remainder of the project that the neighbors might have had. So we're going to start with what currently exists and move into what our proposal is. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Jason Sheets.
Check. All right. Thank you. Jason Sheets, Motor 4. And as Mrs. Lambert stated, we're helping with the design of the project.
Excuse me,
and
Jason, address?
Address 23 Wayne Avenue.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so, as Mrs. Lambert stated, we had an event earlier. It was great to see the turnout. There were 20 neighbors. It's great to see the turnout here. It's demonstrating the neighbors' interest in the development of the neighborhood and the community that similar to Alter's interest. So the first piece is the park, just the general overview of the parking layout. So Mr. Roller mentioned there was slight differences. One of those is the total count based upon this this latest layout that you see before you. 173, I think, is in the proposal or the current application. It is now 164. The reason for that is on the graphic that you see in front of you, the brownish, the lighter trees are existing trees, the green are new proposed trees. There were 2 trees that in the previous proposal that were being eliminated for more parking. Those are now being retained along David, 2 larger trees. So we've adjusted the curb geometry and the layout a little bit to retain those trees. So it drops it to 164. And for reference, 157 was the total number approved in 08, 16 years ago, before the current curriculum and developments at Alter High School. Yeah. Next. So as far as landscaping goes, I mentioned the trees that are being retained, the slight adjustment. So the current net is 12 trees removed from that front lawn, 28 street and site trees planned, and those are along the street and within peninsulas in the parking area, as well as along Wrenwood further to the south, near to the building. 138 bushes, shrubs throughout. That also has to do with that's in addition to the 208 plantings in the bioretention basins planned. So we've also increased, on recommendation with city engineers, increased the retention along Wrenwood to make sure the worst case scenario is addressed. So a few spots were removed as part of that as well. And as mentioned, the oak trees along David are being retained. That seemed to be a reoccurring desire from the neighbors, and we thought we could make that accommodation, make that work, even though it cost a few spots. The next piece is lighting. There was a early review on the foot candles and the photometrics. There was a little bit of bleed to the east, which we've adjusted now with different fixtures and cutoff fixtures to make sure that there's no bleed outside of the property lines. Some of those are new heads and poles. Some of those are new heads on existing poles. But I don't know the date of the existing heads, but they are antiques, let's say, and certainly not to the controlled level that the new lighting plan would be. Yep. And then for those that are really into bioretention details, this is kind of an example of what that would be, but these meet the city's requirements and certainly the demand on the lot and the new improvements. So the flow from the site after construction is 21 to 59% less than the flow prior. So those happen within the parking area and along Wrenwood. So as Mr. Roller mentioned, the traffic study was done. Is that the full piece? Is that zoomed in? Some of the elements, the data was collected from the traffic engineer based upon historical information from city traffic, from police, as far as incidents. There was a concern, and also data from all of the addresses of the students. So all of that information input into the analysis, and the outcome was what you see that Mr. Roller mentioned on the presentation. There was a concern about there being, the younger students being a higher drive risk and caution risk, and it was, I think, 8 incidents over the last 5-6 years involving ages 60 plus and 10 teenage. So as far as the perception of it being lopsided, I think that was interesting and quelled. The big pieces that they recommended was, as shown and as mentioned earlier, no left turn out of the property onto David, because that gets a little congested and a little tight, and also causes stacking issues towards Ackerman. So that'll be alleviated. They also recommended, where we originally conceived it as current, with the current curb cuts, one way in off of David and one way out onto Renwood. The analysis showed that making Renwood both ingress and egress would certainly help the traffic flow. And once those cars, right now, there was always a concern heard that the cars on Renwood were traveling through the neighborhood. Well, those cars that are parked currently along Renwood, those student vehicles, are facing south. Whether they want to go south on Renwood or not, they must, because you can't UE onto through Renwood. So now, with it being ingress and egress, and the parking happening there, then they have the option. They're no longer on the street, they're in the parking lot. They can then head north onto David, a more main thoroughfare, and then towards Marshall or Whip. So the recommendation of ingress and egress on Renwood, no left turn, and the biggest piece that they found was the staggering of start times that Mr. Roller mentioned. And you want to speak to that a little bit?
Before the traffic study was complete, we had announced to our families, per the recommendation of what we heard at the Planning Commission meeting in May, that our new start time is 8:10 a.m. to 3:15 p.m. St. Charles School begins at 7:50 a.m., so that gives us 20 minutes of separation in the morning. And they let out at 2:50 p.m., and that gives us 25 minutes of separation in the afternoon. So it is our hope that this will alleviate the congestion. And in my communication to families, I did say that we would continue to study to see if there would be more time necessary to avoid the congestion on David and Ackerman roads.
How much time do you have now in between? Did you
10 minutes. 10 minutes
yeah.
in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon. This increases both sides by 10 minutes, an extra 10 minutes. I thought we would start there, see how it goes for semester, and then see if we need to continue to increase the time between. I think we'll find that in the afternoon, because we do have so many students that participate in extracurricular activities, that time will be sufficient, because we will have some leaving, but the majority stay on campus. In the fall, we have 80% of our students that participate in an extracurricular activity.
Any commission questions for the applicant?
I have none.
Mr. Waske?
I recalled from the first public hearing, at least I had the impression that the purpose of the additional parking spaces was to get the student parking on street off the street and into the parking lot. But what I heard tonight and what I saw in our handouts was that the study now says that you want to retain on-street parking. Did I get that wrong?
That was a traffic study conducted by the engineer, and the recommendation was to retain on-street parking if necessary. But our goal as a school is to bring the student cars off the street.
Okay, so that's still your goal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How will you know what parameters are in play so that you'll know you can pull them off entirely off the street? Because I think that's a good goal to have for safety reasons. How will you know that you've met that goal?
The majority of the students that park on the street right now are sophomores that turn 16 throughout their sophomore year. There's not sufficient parking. The only parking we have available currently is for juniors and seniors.
I see.
So the sophomores have already reached out to buy parking passes in the hopes that this will pass. But of course, we're not selling any parking passes until we know that this will be successful. But I think that both parents and students would take advantage of that very quickly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other presentations, people, for the applicant?
No, but I thank you for the opportunity to address the commission.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this is a public hearing, and at this time, if there are people in the audience who would like to address the commission, and I would ask that any comments or questions are addressed to the commission. If there's a question that needs to be answered, we will reach out to staff or the appropriate person. Just respectful of everybody's time. Once again, we want to hear what everybody's concerns are, but we don't necessarily need to hear the same concern 15 or 20 times. But, you know, so once again, we're going to be respectful, not put time limits on anybody. We'll just ask that you can sort of, you know, show us the same level of, I guess, consideration. So with that, if there would anybody like to come up, address the commission, just go right ahead. I mean, yeah. We'll just ask you to give your name and address.
Teresa Kennison, 4540 Brynwood. I live directly across from the entrance between the stadium and the buses. Our main concern on Brynwood is the traffic. There's absolutely no way that you can have all 174 or 164 spots coming out on Brynwood, because I drive a school bus. It's unsafe. There's kids walking up and down. Those kids fly. They don't have enough room to turn out of the parking lot to get out on David. Put a light up on David. Put a school zone and have them come out of the parking lot left and right, just like we'll say Centerville, to go left or right to Ackerman or Marshall. Because you can't have them, those kids will come up Brynwood to Pepper Hill and fly either to Ackerman, because you can't get out on Brynwood because there's so much traffic going up and down. And the staggering times on the schools, it doesn't matter. Because on Brynwood, we're getting the Alter drive, you know, the cars coming through there and parking. You're hurting Brynwood is what you're doing. It's making it unsafe. I agree with the parking, but not everybody coming out on Brynwood. That's completely way too dangerous. You're gonna have so many accidents on David because you cannot get out at that time of day. We can't even get out of our driveways at that time of day. And also, I seen that there's trees going up across the street from our houses. There's already a buffer there. You're wasting your money. There needs no trees right there. We enjoy what we see now instead of wasting your money to put trees that you guys will come down and cut down in 2 years. So, but other than that, I have a problem with the traffic on Renwood coming out. You cannot have that many cars come out on Renwood and not expect it to be dangerous for kids, because high schoolers are going to school that time for Fairmont and getting out of school with the buses, and it's too dangerous. It's a safety issue.
Okay. David, did I misunderstand one of the diagrams? I thought that there was traffic then also going out onto?
They come in off of David and Ackerman and Renwood, but they all leave on Renwood. There is no reason why you cannot put a little light, and the city can time it. I know the city can time the lights. Put a light up in front of the parking lot, and that way you have the light where they can make a left or a right coming out of that parking lot on David. There's an aisle there. There's plenty enough room to get 2 lanes to go either way. The traffic will be so much quicker, and if you put a 20-mile-an-hour zone sign up, that'll slow the traffic down right through there for 15 minutes. And they did these traffic studies when school's not even there. So you cannot even predict, you don't even know how much traffic's through there unless you live there and you see these kids parking and flying up and down that street. It's unsafe. That's it. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I feel sorry for her.
My name is Barbara Luce. I live at 4500 Renwood, which is the south corner of David and Renwood. I'm 87, so consider the age. I can't stand very long, but I just have 3 things I'd like to say. First, I pay a little over $6,000 a year in property taxes. And I feel like in doing this parking, all there is turning my property into a slum. And all these kids coming out of that lot and looking at the I can't sell. I'm 87. I can't sell that house like that for very much money, at least not what it's worth. I understand that there are about 500 students, and that juniors and seniors would mean they need 250 spots. And I counted 288 spots back behind Alder where they can park now. It seems like there's enough parking for the students as it is, but if Alder truly needs more parking, I understand they have $3.5 million for parking. They can build a parking garage and keep building up and up as they increase their student population. And that solves the problem forever. Just seems like a quick and dirty and cheap way of solving a problem that probably won't be solved permanently. And my house is really the only asset I have. I can't afford an attorney to fight the city and the school at the same time. I'm going to have to let my daughter speak for me. I need to sit down now.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Leanne Jones. I live in Spring Valley, Ohio, but 2117 Washington Mill Road. And I would like first to say I am against the parking lot in the front. Tonight, I realize there's a new diagram, a new plan for entering the parking lot. I had thought there was one way to enter, and that was off of David Road. My personal opinion, I think there's one way to enter into that front parking lot, because I believe it is gonna get approved anyway, regardless of how any of us residents feel. Exit onto David Road as well. However, you and the engineers can make that happen. Instead of exiting onto David Road, we know students, they'll listen if there's a cop standing there, but when they're gone, they're gonna make the left. It's gonna happen. The tree idea, although I love trees, I really hate where the tree leaves end up in the fall time on Renwood Road, and they end up in my mother's yard. So it's an awful cleanup, but it does happen, and it's short term, and we can manage it, but I think there's a better way to do this. Forfeit some spots. I don't know what you charge for spots now, but alter charges, but if you continue to charge an outrageous amount for students to park, they're not going to pay it. They're going to continue to park in the back streets. It's still going to continue to be a problem. I'm just against this. I think Alter has outgrown. If they do expect an increase, it's just going to add more. If they get that increase, Research Park, I don't know what's left of there. I understand they're building an elementary school out there. Consider going out to Research Park. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Bob Wonder. I live on 4532 Renwood, right across the street from the Bustas. And I'm a next door neighbor to Teresa. And I think that's a great idea to have a parking garage in the back. That would fix everything. Although, if that doesn't happen, like Teresa mentioned, coming off of David Road, making one way in and one way out, on David only. Do not go on Renwood. Renwood right now is a little crazy during the time of school comes out. But if you let this thing happen, it's going to be a madhouse. You're talking about stacking. Stacking. 6 cars can get on Renwood. If they get out of the parking lot and turn left to go on David, there'll be only 6 cars can go that way to stop at the stop sign before they go on David. So that means everybody's going down Renwood south. 180 cars will be going south. They go 40 to 50 mile an hour down Renwood. I watch them. It's very unsafe. If you allow this to happen, they're going to have so much issues with traffic and kids. We got little kids next door. They're 3 years old. They don't need to be seeing these cars flying up down the street like that. This analysis, like Teresa said, wasn't done during school. They didn't take into consideration all the parents from the freshmen come on Renwood and stop. And they're parked all the way from into the back of their school, all the way down almost to David Road. There's just cars, one car after another, waiting to pick their kids up. Where are they going to come if you allow this to happen? It'll be a nightmare on Renwood Drive. One way in on David, same way out on David. Do not let them come on Renwood. As far as the trees, right by the buses, there's power lines right in front of the Kinnison's house. You don't want trees right below power lines. That's stupid. Don't put those there. You don't need the trees there. Save the money. You don't need any trees right by the buses. So I think they need to redo the analysis during school time and look at all those parents stacked up waiting to bring those kids on. And if you really want to get the kids off the street, I would like to hear from you guys, how are you going to do that? How are you going to manage the kids off the street without inconveniencing the neighbors? Because once in a while we'd like to park on the street. Not always, but once in a while. So we don't want to have a no parking there, obviously, because once in a while we'll park. My son comes home and they need to park on the street for the weekend or for a week or so. Other than that, I guess that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is James Kennison. I live at 4540 Renwood, and I'd just like to elaborate on a couple things that was said. Myself, by looking at the plan you guys got up here, I would like to have a traffic light in the middle of the parking lot instead of on Renwood. If you put a light in the middle, you do away with your medium, you can have 2 lanes going out and 2 lanes going in, plus your other 2 that's going in, because the whole objective of the kids, when they leave school, is either get to Ackerman, Far Hills, or Marshall. So if they get out on David Road, most of them won't even go down Renwood, because the only reason they go down Renwood is to get to Ackerman Road, or make a left and get on Marshall. And that would be a lot quicker. Now, as far as the trees go, by looking at the diagram, or bushes, or whatever you want to call them, you guys got bushes on the curb side of the sidewalk. The kids won't be able to see when they're pulling out. You know, because when you pull out of something, just like if you got to look through bushes, you don't want nothing on the curb side of the sidewalk. All right, let me see here. That's about it. I'd like to know, the plan that was voted on, did everybody here vote on that? I mean, did everybody have a vote?
Which plan are you talking about, sir?
This plan here, this plan.
It's not been voted on.
It's not been voted on yet?
It has not.
But the majority of people saying it's going to pass, right? I mean, that's what we hear.
Okay.
That's just what we hear, and one more thing, and this is just me. And, I've been around a while, but I would like to see, just like when I went to Alter on the 30th, I would like to see the start to the finish project. And that way everybody knows what's really going on down the line. Because I don't want to keep the school from growing, because that's education. I mean, that's a big deal. But I would like to see the start to the finish. And I know that, like the letter we received, like you can email people and like that. And I just thought I'd say I emailed and I didn't get no response. And I emailed 6 days ago. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Bob Goddess from 4700 Renwood Drive. Lived there for 55 years, so I think I've seen about as many changes at Alter as anyone.
Can you give me your address again? We didn't.
4700 Renwood
Thank you.
Drive. And I guess my big concern is, how do you do a traffic study without traffic? I mean, just as knowing nothing about anything about traffic, but to me, that's just impossible. And I did hear where you got the numbers from. That's one of the questions I had. Alter furnished those. And the difference of cars from September to May is probably 60 or 70 car difference. In September, you don't have the sophomores got driver's license yet. And come May, they all got not all, but 60 or 70 of them got driver's license. So when was that traffic study taken? In the September group or the May group? And just exactly, in the mornings, how many cars come off of Pepper Hill down Renwood to enter Alter's parking lot in the back? Do they have that figure? And how many of them come down heading east on David Road? I didn't find out until today and over the weekend. That is an absolute nightmare. I mean, they are backed up too wide, all the way past Wingview. People cannot get out of Wingview because of these cars parked there. So you got a light at Ackerman and David, and of course, you got green and red, right? So if it's red, they back up there. It's unbelievable. Is that in the traffic study? What are we going to do about that? Let's see here. And then also coming east on David Road, going west. I'm sorry, that's going east. The other one. But if you go west, how many cars are coming down David Road heading west that are going to have to turn into that lot? Do we have numbers? If you get a traffic study, you'll find out in a heartbeat. And I don't, I'm in favor of 70 or so parking spots in the front. I mean, that was the original, and now they've changed the deal a little bit here. Originally, the last meeting, it was 60 cars off the street. Well, what do we need 180 parking places for? If you only want to remove the cars off the street. That was the original proposal. So why not make a nice parking lot out there with 70 parking spots? You got plenty there. There again, that parking lot in the front will be empty, or most, maybe 10, 12 cars, until you get to May. Then you're going to have 60 or 70 more cars. It'll be maybe close to filled up. So you're going to have, what, 100 and, well, they revised the numbers there, but you're going to have 150 empty parking places out there in September. And then, like Bob was saying there, this, picking these freshmen and sophomores that don't have license up is, you can't describe it. It's unreal. And what are you going to do about that? Now, at the meeting at Alter, I was told that they're going to make those people come in the David Road, the David Road entrance, like any other, the rest of them are supposed to come in, and stay up there on top and pick their kids up. Well, there again, you got them backed up all the way through the Alter's entrance onto David Road, down David Road, because there's, I don't know how many, 60, 70 cars are coming in there to pick these kids up. So there's a problem. And I think people forget, there's traffic on David Road a whole lot, without school traffic. Is that in the traffic study? How many people use David Road on a regular basis? And also, I noticed they're talking about, these extra parking places. Now there are, I'm not sure, 35 or so parking places there for the administration and teachers and what have you. Well, that's another 25 to add to the total, of how many have to exit on Renwood Drive. And I did mention in that meeting last Tuesday, and I think somebody mentioned it earlier, there's just got to be an exit onto David Road. I mean, it's just, you can't exit everybody out of there, and then they're out here turning there again. Like I said, you've got all this regular David Road traffic, and you've got to have a number as to how many cars use that regularly, at what time. And I do have one last question. How many kids ride the buses? Now, like I say, I've lived there for 55 years. And I've seen, haven't noticed it lately. I really haven't. The last 5 years, can't really say. But, 5, 10 years ago, these buses used to come down and go to Centerville. Centerville school buses come down, and there wasn't 4 or 5 kids on that bus. Never more than 5. A lot of times it's 2. And it's just, what I'm saying is it's all cars. 95% of that school is cars. And that's where we have our problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm back. Bob Wonder, 4532 Renwood. I forgot about the oak trees. Don't cut the oak trees down. Those are 60, 70-year oak trees. Don't cut the oak trees down. My gosh, those things are so beautiful. If you reduce the parking, you don't need to cut the oak trees down. But please don't do that. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Gloria Strickland, and I have lived on 945 East David Road for 10.5 years. When I bought the house, I knew there was a high school across the street. I knew there'd be teenage drivers. I knew that at certain times there would be traffic. And that has to be expected when you live by a school. Now, one of the things that I saw at the meeting at Alter, I thought there would be no parking on Renwood. So that when you went out and you came in, one of the concerns was the parking made the road narrower, therefore making it unsafe. I understand that people who live on Renwood want to park on Renwood. So all the parking that happens there is not student parking. I know that for a fact because I walk down Renwood just about every morning. I am in support of this proposal, and I think Alter has gone above and beyond what needs to be done to address concerns. The concern about students speeding, I'm going to tell you, neighbors speed. Call the police. If you think it's a bad problem, call the police. Let them do a study. But like I said, when you live near a school, you have to expect traffic at certain times. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Andy Terzwilly from 913 East David Road. Okay. First thing I'd want to do is second what the gentleman said, keep all trees. God created the trees, and they're very, very useful. The other thing, video cameras are very cheap these days. In fact, some of the radio stations use them. I would recommend, as some people have pointed out, that these meetings have been happening not during the school year. I would recommend that the school purchase some video cameras to mount at these questionable locations and maybe come back. I mean, school's starting in a couple of weeks here, so maybe come back in a month or so and show some of the videos to describe some of the traffic patterns that are going on. As this lady mentioned here, David Road is a racetrack. There's no question about it. And I don't know what you do about it. The speed limit is 35. People very frequently feel they can get away with 8 miles an hour over the speed limit. If they reduce it to 25, I think it's going to probably slow people down, maybe too much. Ackerman is 25, but that's a little bit more residential. David has a lot of industrial, commercial places on there. So I would say the only way to deal with the David speeding is possibly some radar things that are mounted along there, the way they have on Smithville Road. Smithville Road has radar cameras that will also record people's traffic lights, license plates. Okay. I think I mentioned the last time, and this is semi-related, that you really need a painted walkway from the the concrete walkway that goes from the St. Charles Rectory over across the street. I don't know if it has anything to do with Alter, but again, from the Planning Commission standpoint, having a crosswalk painted would make it a lot safer for the priests. The current priest there he's in his 70s, he's pretty mobile, but the one we had prior to that had a lot of trouble walking, and it took him a while to walk across the street, so I definitely recommend that. I notice when you have Alter Fest, there is some kind of a traffic guard that sits at the driveway that enters actually St. Charles property, but since it goes to Alter Fest, possibly for a little bit of a study, maybe have a traffic guard on duty temporarily at some of these entry points just to monitor things, and then that person can come in and testify along with the videos. But I strongly recommend video cameras. They're cheap these days, easy to do, and it would give everybody a chance to actually see motion rather than pictures. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right.
Hi, my name is Elijah Wireman. I live at 4540 Wrenwood Drive. I was mostly curious, so there was a traffic study done, correct? When was this conducted?
David, or?
Sure. So it was not a traffic study.
Mm-hmm.
What it was an analysis of the potential impacts of constructing a parking lot in this location. So there were some assumptions that were made based on the consultant's report. The applicant could probably address that if you'd like, but it was performed, I believe, in the last month and a half was when they did that.
Mm-hmm.
So the applicant can probably address that
Okay.
better than I could.
So to be clear, no study was done. And the proposal of new traffic is essentially just built on a hunch that this will be the way it best operates. As Bob stated, you can only fit between that Wrenwood exit, being the only exit, and East David Road, roughly 6 cars, maybe 10 if they're like bumper to bumper. They're gonna be coming out Pepper Hill. Right at the intersection of Wrenwood Drive and Pepper Hill, there's about 5, maybe 4 or 5 houses with small kids, toddlers, too young to be in school. These kids, I live right outside of this exit. They fly through there, and I get it, you've heard this before, but it's such a big problem. Every single person coming out of that school is going to be exiting through right there. I don't know who in their right mind conjured this up based entirely off of just some sort of conjecture that this will be the way it best operates, but there's no parameters being performed. There's no actual data to back up any of this. It's just kind of based off a best guess. I don't get it, so thank you.
Just name and address again, or not? Jason Sheets.
You're good.
Okay, good. With regards, there was some question about the traffic analysis. To give a frame of reference as far as the data, in the same way that you would design a mechanical system for your house, you don't have the house built. You know what all of the things that are going into the house, the areas, the spaces, and then you then calculate what would need to happen, how many CFM, how many diffusers, rate of airflow. In the same way, that's what this was based upon. I'm not a traffic engineer, but as I understood how the traffic engineer approached it, the data is existing traffic flows that the city has, as far as just data on the streets, any kind of traffic incidents as far as what the City of Kettering Police Department has, data as far as, while Alter cannot control those that travel on David from the east to the west and all of the thoroughfares that don't go to Alter, as far as just Alter impact, addresses of all of those attending Alter. So analyzing from point A to point B, where's the highest loads and how are those distributed. So hopefully that clarifies the data piece of the analysis. I guess that's the best, as Mr. Roller said, it's not a traffic study of someone out there counting cars that go through. That is information that's already in place. This is the impact and analysis of, if it goes in, what is the most efficient way to lay it out, and what is the best measures taken to alleviate current issues as far as stacking and congestion.
Thank you.
I would like to ask a question. Connie, I was under the impression, again, that one of the reasons we went to a bifurcated public hearing was that we had requested a traffic study be done. Can you pull up the minutes?
I cannot, I'd have to go downstairs.
You can't, oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
David can take
Yeah,
it.
and I don't have the minutes from that meeting here either.
Well, I do have the,
We have the minutes that we approved, but that was for, that was for the last meeting.
That was 4700 Renwood Drive. That is exactly what we were told. There would be a traffic study.
That-
Because in that last meeting, you know, that was the big deal. It was right at the end of the school year. We can't get a traffic study done,
Yeah.
you know, because it's the end of the school year. We can't do a traffic study without traffic. And now an analysis overrides a traffic study.
That's what I was thinking, that we were asking for.
That's
Exactly.
right. And we
Well,
didn't
but
get
that would not show you what the impact of an additional parking lot is. That just shows you how it would function currently. Would not show you how it would potentially operate in the future.
True.
Hence the analysis.
Okay, so,
what we need.
I do have one more question.
okay.
Okay? Okay, we got analysis tells us addresses. How about Bellbrook? Okay, if you're coming from Bellbrook, how do they know, are you going to come up Marshall Road and turn left to get into Alter? Or are you gonna come down south off of Pepper Hill, down Renwood to get in? They don't know, and neither do I. And that's true every direction. I mean, you know, you just need a traffic study. It's very simple. And like Ray said, that's what was proposed in the last meeting. And all of a sudden now, traffic study's not needed. Thank you.
Lourdes Lambert, just for a point of clarification, we have worked very closely with the city planners, and after the May 20th meeting, we went for clarification on what was required to come back before the Planning Commission, and we did exactly as we were told. This is not something we provided instead of a traffic study, but under the guidance of the city planners. Thank you.
Okay, I stand corrected, I guess.
Hi, Teresa Kennison. I have just one example of the traffic coming out on Renwood. Imagine everybody's been to Fairmont, correct? You have two exits to come out of Fairmont, of the gym and the main parking lot, imagine nobody coming out of that gym. Imagine everybody coming out that main parking lot that close to the street. That's what Renwood's gonna look like. Because with no cop. They have security there now letting them out. And that's, you guys have seen Fairmont traffic. Can you imagine 163 on a side street without a cop and just one exit? Fairmont's got two. They've got one way down and then one up by the street. That's just an example that you can think of why they shouldn't come out on Renwood.
James Kennison, 4540 Renwood. I would like to make a suggestion. I don't know if you guys, everybody's going to plan on voting on this phase, but I would like to see you guys vote to table it until there is more data and information available. Because evidently there's a lot of flaws in this one that everybody's presenting. And there's a lot of, they ain't happy about it. And I think a little more study ought to be, and I wish you would table it. That's my suggestion. Thanks.
Thank you.
Patty Wonder, 4532 Renwood Drive, Kettering. I just wanted to say that we're just talking about that.
Excuse me, could you repeat it?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you need to slow down a little bit. She's writing these down by hand.
Sorry. Yeah. Patty Wonder, 4532 Renwood. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say we're only talking about that new parking lot, but there's also the old parking lot that, what'd they say, 288 spaces were there? In the old parking lot, those people come out on Redwood too. So that's just another reason that a study should be done when school's in session. Thank you.
Thank you. And if there's people up top, if there is some spaces down here, if you want to sort of queue, totally up to you.
Hi, I'm Connie Jackson, and I live at 4524 Wingview Lane.
I'm Brian Jackson, also 4524 Wingview Lane.
The neighbors got together and prepared a petition of the things that are important to the neighborhood. And this was presented to the city planning this afternoon in enough time to give the Planning Commission in advance. So we'll read it. I'm assuming you want us to read it so the audience, or it can be recorded.
Sure.
But our requests are listed below to incorporate into your proposed parking lot expansion. The intention is to blend the expanded parking lot into the neighborhood instead of looking like an unsightly commercial lot. These items also take into consideration the safety of the neighborhood and greatly reduce the student traffic through the neighborhood on Renwood and Pepper Hill.
So there's 6 items. Number 1, reduce the size of the parking lot. Reduce the size of the parking lot to 80 spaces, enough to accommodate the student street parking needs. Other than the annual Altar Fest where grass parking works, there is no need for additional parking. There is currently ample parking for St. Charles Mass and funerals. Number 2, landscape buffer. Incorporate at least a 20-foot enhanced landscape buffer designed by a landscape architect on the north and east sides of the parking lot expansion. This plan will include keeping the existing mature trees along the perimeter. The intention is to fit the parking lot into the neighborhood setting instead of an unsightly commercial parking lot in a current green space, which would have a negative impact on property values. Number 3, parking lot lighting. Split the parking lot lighting to enable only lighting the sections being used in shorter and lowered powered light to reduce the light pollution in the neighborhood. Limit the time of parking lot lights can be used all off by 10 p.m. Number 4, change parking lot entrance and exit. Move the entrance and exit to the David Road only. creating a one-way in and one-way out on David Road only. Expand current entrance lane. A traffic light can be added on David Road for before and after school and only to direct the flow and remain a flashing caution light during all other hours. This would reduce the student traffic through the neighborhoods on Renwood and Pepper Hill. The traffic flow works in much larger school settings such as Centerville High School. Number 5, parking lot access. Consider blocking the parking lot when not in use to prevent cars entering during off hours in the evening and overnight, which happens in the back lot. Restrict street parking. Enforce the current parking restrictions on Renwood and add no parking during 7 to 4 on school days on David in front of Alder, so students must utilize the expanded parking lot. Currently, Alder parking policy requires students to park on the streets when they do not have or have a revoked parking pass. And there were over 50 signatures on the petition that was submitted.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ellen Gerhard. I live at 1091 Pepper Hill Drive. I wanted to come up and speak because I feel that most of the speakers have been from Renwood Drive and not very many on Pepper Hill. My biggest concern with this plan is the traffic. If you can look at the map, the entrance and exit that they have on David, on their traffic flow, is for it to be only coming in there. So everything is exiting Renwood. At the exit time, I understand that there is suggested to not be any left turns at that west exit onto David. Therefore, all of the cars that might be exiting from the rear parking lot coming out there will be turning right onto David. Therefore, those cars coming out on Renwood, they're going to be waiting while all these cars are driving down David. Let's all take a step back to when we were teenagers. The floodgates open at school, you're ready to go. You're ready to get out the door and get home, okay? These kids are not going to sit in a line of 6 or 10 cars and wait to go out to David. They're all going to be going into the neighborhood where these toddlers and teenagers, it's not going to be safe. That's my biggest concern. Is that it? Oh, the other concern was the parking. I understand that in the handbook at Alter, and this might have just been mentioned before, but that if there is a disciplinary action where the parking pass is revoked for disciplinary reasons, it is stated in their handbook that then they will park on the street. So how are we eliminating street parking when that's what the kids are being told to do when they do something wrong? Maybe they should just be revoked from driving to school or some other disciplinary action, in my opinion. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Just point of clarification for the handbook. I've been the principal for 14 years at Alter, and no one's parking privileges have ever been revoked.
James Kennison again, 4540 Renwood. Is there a chance that I could get somebody to propose to put it on the table and maybe get a second for later? Am I allowed to ask that? Because this is the board, right?
You just did. So,
well, no, but nobody has.
You can't make you can't propose a motion though.
No, I'm asking for one of you two to put it on the table.
You've just done that.
Are you guys going to put it on the table and not do this proposal?
That would be unfair to everybody else who may want to speak for or against this yet. So it's not something we would address.
But you're allowed to speak even though it's on the table, right?
No.
I'm sorry.
I misunderstood there. You act
If
like
we
nobody
table
could
something,
say
that
nothing.
means we're done.
We're not to that point yet.
Oh,
Yes.
is that what that means? Okay, well, that was my question. Okay. So once it's on the table, then nobody can say nothing? Is that what you said, more or less? I mean, I just.
Basically, yes.
Okay, that's.
Okay.
All right.
Is that all we got? It's always somebody else that musters up the courage at some point.
I'll say something. I just wanted to just make the meeting longer, because I'm sure everyone just wants to hang out for a little bit. I just wanted to comment in regards to the petition or items read earlier, and I'm just jotting down notes. I'd love to investigate those, but I think based upon what was presented, I just jotted down notes on each of the items. The overall concern was the unsightly commercial lot, or trying to alleviate the environment of an unsightly commercial lot. Certainly the conflict of a parking garage directly contrasts that, but I think the steps have been made meeting City of Kettering's elevated and actually very nice landscape requirements. So we're meeting all of those, but there's been comments of the over planting towards the service area on Renwood. I would think we'd be open to looking at reducing that. The 80 spots, I know we keep talking about morning and evening drop-offs. Some of the things we talked about last time, as far as students, floodgates open and leave, whereas St. Charles, they're all drivers, right? It's all parents. Alter, and we can't control St. Charles until we move the driving age, but Alter, I don't know the exact number, but over 50% of the students have extracurricular activities. So it's not every student, 3:15, let's go. It is a slow sort of drip to get most of those kids out. But as far as 80 spots goes, even though 16 years ago it was 157 that was approved, the 80 we're talking about, we continue to talk about just school today, but just as this building has activities outside of 9 to 5, and there's more than 100 some parking spots out front, there's not 100 some people in this building working day to day. There's events that happen. So as far as, you know, there was reference of funerals and mass, that's just one piece. In the fall, when there's freshman, JV, and varsity event on the field, and there's something going on in the gym, and there's a performance in the Performing Arts Center, the demand for parking is there. There are people that can't park in the lot right now for events. And currently, Alter moves a lot of events to other venues simply for that reason. So bringing all that parking to handle the capacity on site alleviates that. And as far as blocking it off when not in use, I don't know that there is outside of I have kids that have gone through, I mean, I see it all the time. There's not really a time outside of 11 p.m. to 4, 5, 6 a.m. where it's not being used. There is always something going on. As far as inside the school, on the fields, at the church, there's always something going on. So that would be a tough one to address. The parking lights, I think we've done that, understanding we've met all the requirements outside of keeping all of the light on the property. There's really not much more that you could do and still create a safe environment for the students. And then as far as David and traffic lights, if you're worried about stacking, I don't know that you really want a traffic light in front of your driveways and the stacking associated with that. That is kind of over our head, and I know city engineering, city traffic has analyzed what occurs in the mornings and afternoons for both schools. And if that were a solution, they're a very bright bunch. If that were a solution, I'm sure that would be on the table already. I can't speak for them, but based upon their knowledge thus far, I think that would have been put in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Commission comments. We've been a quiet bunch up here. Anybody have anything they would, any questions you have or comments?
I haven't.
Not yet.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Urbis.
Mr. Sheets, question for you. Who conducted your traffic analysis?
A EMH&T traffic department. It's an approved traffic engineering firm by the city of Kettering.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the EMH&T.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure that was it.
Yep.
Typically, when you do a traffic study, isn't that normally done when you have an additional increase because you're adding a new service or a new building or new something that's going to increase the volume? Is that typically when you see traffic studies?
This one is outside. I can't speak. That's not my world, the traffic engineering, but this is done as an analysis. I'm certain there's always, whether it's traffic, whether it's stormwater, whether it's light pollution, a design's in place and there is an analysis of what is the impact of that new design to the environment directly and the tremors outside of that. So traffic would be just one of those things, and that's
Okay.
what took place.
So when I review their analysis and their recommendations, they recommended the one-way direction flow, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And the major reason for that was to avoid accidents on left turns onto East David Road from what they're calling the new entrance point. Is that correct?
Yeah, the no left turn piece?
Right.
Yes.
Right. So they felt that was a concern in order to have the traffic enter onto Redwood from exiting on two different directions, correct?
Correct. And, you know, another piece of that, everyone's thinking about how it is now, and again, it's analysis. So the stacking that occurs on Renwood, we're trying to alleviate that. So all those cars that come off of the street that make it very difficult. Renwood's not built for, David's wide enough to handle, it still gets a little tight, but it can handle it. Once it's on Renwood, it gets even tighter. So all those cars coming off of Renwood into the parking lot then alleviate that limited sight distance, alleviate those tight driving conditions, and free up the traffic flow.
Okay.
So, yep.
Thank you. Do you have a question for Ms. Lambert? So you said you've been principal there for 14 years, I believe you said?
Yes, sir.
How has your enrollment changed the last 5 years, and what is your projection the next 2 or 3 years in your estimation?
Since COVID, our enrollment has held steady at 500. It is always our desire to increase enrollment, but since the pandemic, we've been right at 500.
Okay, and you anticipate this upcoming school year will be about the same amount?
It is at that same amount. Our enrollment right now is closed for the upcoming school year, since we start August 14th. So we are at 502.
Okay, so your population of students has been pretty consistent then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So then that would make an analysis reasonable.
I'm not a traffic engineer, but what I was trying to understand is the variables that we're playing with here, that's all.
I'm not sure if this is a question for you or for city staff, but I mean, a lot of the concerns, major concerns would be obviously all this traffic going out onto Renwood and then Pepper Hill and the neighborhoods. And I think that's a valid concern. There's been a lot of suggestions that there would be an exit to David. So I guess I'd like to hear, why is, I'm sure that was looked at. Is there no, why is that not part of the plan? Why is an exit on David not part of the plan? And why does it all have to go to Renwood? I mean, I've heard what's said, and maybe I'm missing it. I'm not the brightest bulb, but.
Yeah, my bulb doesn't shine that bright either. And probably not nearly as bright as yours. I don't know. I wish city traffic was here, or a traffic engineer that knows these facts right off the top of their head. But
yeah.
I do know there is a general sort of a general standard of practice that you don't introduce new curb cuts within X hundred feet of an intersection, generally speaking. And then there's certain criteria based upon what the need and impacts of traffic lights and that sort of thing. I don't know those.
Okay.
That was an analysis piece up front. I don't know if someone from the city can speak to it, but I don't know the details, but I know that is part of the criteria as far as introducing curb cuts near intersections. Is generally, there is a minimum distance that is preferred from just traffic in general.
However, you are introducing a new curb cut at the corner of Renwood and David, right?
No, all curb cuts currently exist. We're widening both of them to allow for 2 lanes, but those curb cuts.
Does that curb cut exist?
Yeah.
On Renwood?
Yep.
Okay,
So
I guess
currently, it is one way in from David. It's a one-way run right now. One way in from David, one way out onto Renwood.
Okay. I guess I used to live on Renwood. That's why I'm asking. I guess I'd forgotten that little detail. Thank you.
In our information, you gave us a detailed, well, and this came from, it came from your analysis. But we had the existing parking, we had the data collection, we had the information on congestion. This was part of our packet on Friday, and I think it gives us findings and recommendations, a summary of their findings, and it talked about accidents and so forth. So I think we have that information, and the reasons they were doing it. To slow down accidents, to reduce it.
Yep.
Responsible, prohibiting northbound to westbound left turn movements, exiting the school campus onto East David with signage. It was responsible for 13% of the crashes identified. I mean, it's pretty specific that we've got the information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for reference, if there's 80 cars, I think you're saying the same thing. If there's 80 cars that are traveling westbound a year ago that are associated with this project, there are still 80 cars traveling westbound associated with this project. So now it's analyzing if that's the flow, what is most efficient, what is least impactful, and what is mitigating any sort of potential stacking or congestion. So those are variables that do not change.
Right. So we can talk about studies, but this is more definitive than standing out with a clicker, because you can't get all the information that way. And the purpose is really to promote safety and give them what they need.
Yep. All right. Poll for commissioners. We ready for staff recommendation?
So much for Clarence Thomas.
Or any comments there in terms of our next action?
I'd like to hear from staff.
Staff recommendation.
Certainly, Mr. Rethman. We are recommending approval with some conditions. Based upon the evidence presented and the analysis and findings made within the staff report, staff recommends that the request for approval of a conditional use amendment for Alter High School located at 940 East David Road be approved with the following conditions. Number one, per the recommendation of the traffic consultant, signage be installed designating one-way inbound traffic from David Road, two-way traffic for inbound and outbound traffic on Wrenwood Drive, and designating circulation within the northeast parking lot in a counterclockwise direction. And two, per the recommendation of the traffic consultant, reduce congestion by increasing the gap between start and end times for Alter High School and St. Charles Elementary to no less than 20 minutes in the morning and no less than 25 minutes in the afternoon. And number three, per the recommendation of the traffic consultant, extend the westbound median break for left turns on David Road at the northeast parking area entrance driveway by 60 feet to a total of 100 feet. We have two additional conditions that we're recommending that were not in the staff report based on the plans that were given to us this morning. And that is that I've given Mr. Lackey some sample language on that. One is to save the two large oak trees that Alter has shown on their plans, and the other was to restrict the usage of the lighting after 10 p.m. To not come back on until the following day, unless there is a specific event that's scheduled to allow those lights to remain on. Those are the recommendations that we have, and those are the conditions that we recommend.
All right. Thank you. Commission comments on staff recommendation.
I heard some interest in traffic light, believing that would give them some additional safety concerns, and it would also give them a better feeling of how this would work. And I believe they were talking about a traffic light coming out to David. That's not something we can do. That would be something they would have to take directly to City Council. We can't change that. If they're interested in that, does that come after we would make a decision on what we do?
Staff comments.
Yes, I do know that our traffic engineers have looked at that in the past, and they do continue to look at that. What I would suggest is that you just simply make that as a recommendation that we take that idea of putting a traffic light there at Wrenwood to the City Council for our traffic engineers to study. And not included with the motion.
So that would be like a further recommendation at the end, if we feel that that's something to include?
Yeah.
Can I say something? Are you saying put one at Wrenwood? Put a traffic light at Wrenwood?
If you want to address...
I'm sorry. My name's Teresa Kennison.
We remember.
On
Thank you.
Wrenwood. Are you saying put a traffic light on Wrenwood? Is that what your suggestion?
No. What I'm suggesting is that the Planning Commission is recommending that our traffic engineer look at that.
Okay, all right. But on days that I was off during school, they do have Alter students that cross David from Wrenwood across the street to the other side of Wrenwood. Did you know you had students crossing? Okay. But they're crossing all the way across David with no crosswalk. So a light would also help you in front of the parking lot for the students that live on the other side, the walkers.
The other side of Wrenwood, the other side of David?
On the other
There.
side of David, Alter's here.
Crossing
You've
David.
got students that's crossing David from Wrenwood, crossing over to the other side because they're walkers.
For instance, like Fairmont crossing Schroyer
Exactly.
to get to the cars that are
And I've seen
parked on
students hit
Isaac
at
Prue?
Fairmont. They've been hit in front of Fairmont also, and they've got lights up there.
They have a caution.
Yes. And I've seen students hit there. I'm just saying, it's unsafe. It's unsafe. Having that many parking spots in that location coming out on one street is unsafe.
I will say in Kettering's defense, they have 2,000 students as opposed to 500.
Right. But if you lived across the street and you have to see how they speed up and down your street and they come out, I've had a school bus in my yard because they cannot go through Wynwood because you've got traffic where Centerville had to come out and fix my yard because they don't have enough room to come up Wynwood. There's not enough, it's unsafe. If you have that many cars, it's not safe at all. I'm just, you know, I live across the street from the school. I bought knowing I love the school. I love going to Alterfest. They take plenty of my money. I have no problem with the parking lot. I have problem with the traffic. I have problems with the safety of who lives on Wrenwood, Pepper Hill, Wingview, all through the neighborhood. Because you don't see people leaving Fairmont going all through their neighborhood. They're going straight out to 48 or straight out to Schroyer. They're not going through a neighborhood with all their cars.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, but I do have one more thing. Robert Goddess, 4700 Renwood Drive. We left the meeting the last time with the understanding there would be a traffic study. Somehow, you people didn't know about the traffic study to an analysis, and none of these people back here knew anything about a traffic study.
I don't know that that's a fair statement, but go ahead.
Well, that's what they just said. Ray asked about that, and they told him.
So Ray is not you all.
Do what? I'm sorry, what?
You're correct. I was not aware of that.
He was not.
So?
That doesn't mean that everybody on the commission held the same view.
Okay, but it was
It's
done.
fair that
It
is raised.
Just one question. Was it done behind your back?
No.
Okay. It's done behind Ray's. Okay. Thanks.
James Kennison, 4540 Renwood. I know it was brought up earlier, and I'm looking at the parking lot pattern. And it really wasn't answered, but where are the students' parents picking their kids up at? Like right now, they do it on Renwood. They come both directions. And this new plan, are they going to be somewhere else, or are they going to still be on Renwood? I mean...
We'll ask the question.
Pardon me?
I will ask the question.
Okay, okay.
Did you have any other?
No, because somebody brought it up and nobody really answered it, and I was making sure that it was a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, thank you. Ms. Lambert?
Because it wasn't in the recommendations.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, to answer the question, the parent drop-off and pickup will be in the front of the school instead of in the back of the school because the stacking lanes will be longer to alleviate the traffic that currently exists on Renwood Road.
Thank you. Ray, did you have something?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to clear the air here so that there's no aspersion on our city staff. I just simply missed it when I read my staff report, the fact that they had made a change in not doing the traffic study. I just simply missed it as I read it. That's all. So there's no intent to leave me out or deceive.
But we all came to this meeting tonight waiting for a traffic study, which can't be done without traffic. I mean, that was what we left this last meeting with. that there was going to be, you know, in fact, among, I don't know if it was who, but I remember people talking, you know, how do you know, how, they're going to have to wait till school begins to get a traffic study. But now all of a sudden that wasn't necessary. And
I mean, it was
just
my
can't
understanding because, and I apologize for interrupting here, but once again, you're just counting the existing traffic patterns, would not show, which is where the analysis comes in, of the impact of expanding the parking in front of the building. So from my understanding, that part needed to be added in, and it didn't necessarily, because they're, as Ms. Lambert said, their student population has been static for now since the pandemic.
Right.
That was my understanding. I understand where there could have maybe been some confusion, but at least
well,
from my
like I said,
side.
I guess the bottom line is, you know, a traffic study is much better than an analysis.
Fair.
You know, like I said, okay, Bellbrook, okay, do they come from the east or do they come from the south? Huh? I mean, they got an address down there in Bellbrook. I don't know whether they come up and come down Pepper Hill and come in from on Renwood, or do they run up Marshall to David Road? Who knows that?
Well, the one thing is, from wherever they live to wherever the altar is, those two things don't change, and they may come a different way every day.
Well, then that's
we don't
where
know.
a traffic study is necessary. Do they come down David Road or do they come up Renwood?
Okay.
Thank you.
I would add that I believe also that we talked about a traffic study last time we were here. In fact, I asked Ms. Lambert about when school ended, and it was like 3 days later or something that school ended at that time, and I asked how we were going to do a traffic study without school in session. And we got the answer that, well, we could do something that without being in session. But there's no question that we talked about a traffic study. I mean, that's firmly in my mind.
We did.
Well, a traffic study and a traffic analysis, there's not one that's better than the other. They're just two different things. We know what the traffic is on David Road, on Renwood, on Marshall. We already know that. Our traffic engineers have tracked that for a lot of years. What we wanted to know, and it was very specific, let's step back a little bit. Our traffic engineers advise that, no, we do not need a traffic study because that is something different. What we should do, though, based on the comments from the Planning Commission last time, is let's investigate what the impacts are of this parking lot on the surrounding neighborhoods and how congestion might be addressed. That would be best done by a traffic analysis, which is what then we directed the applicant to do, to address those very specific things. So there was never a traffic study because, like was talked about before, we know what the traffic is. The number of students is not going to be increased or decreased based on this parking lot. It's how is this parking lot going to affect the surrounding area? And that's done through a traffic analysis.
I think the whole thing, maybe just in retrospect, would have been best handled with a simple email, separate email to each commission member stating that point. Just simple, plain English, what your intent was. That's just for future.
All right, we still have a staff recommendation here. There was a suggestion made by someone in the public here to table this. Does any of the commissioners feel that we should table this?
I don't.
I would.
I would.
You would? I would not.
Yeah.
So I think we're 3-2.
Well, I guess I would ask, why would we table it? What are we going to look for?
Good question. So, of those wishing to table it, what information are we missing?
I would like to know the feasibility of an exit on David Road and why that's not feasible. I mean, currently, we say the same number of cars going out Renwood, but that's not true. All those cars that are parked in front of the building are probably going directly east on David Road when school's out. They're not going down Renwood to Pepper Hill. So you're adding however many cars that is in front of the building now to that mix of traffic going down into the residential area. I think that an exit onto David should be looked at harder.
And I would second that same concern. I can't think of a separate issue. I'm just concerned with dumping all that traffic onto Renwood and nowhere else. There's got to be a better solution, I would think.
Yeah. Well, right now, we've got no new curb cuts proposed. So, and I don't think anybody on the commission, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but thinks that adding additional curb cuts, so it's just a function then of how the traffic is circulating into and off of this potential enlarged parking lot, correct? So, I guess at some point, and I don't know whether we would need to change language, given the applicant, it's like, this is based on recommendation of traffic engineer, they believe this works best. And if in practice then there's something needs to be tweaked or modified, I think that they've got the leeway to manage their students in the parking lot. Just a suggestion.
Question for staff. Are we still in the open public hearing?
We have not closed the public hearing.
All right. Well, just from the staff standpoint, when you look at the traffic flow going on in Renwood, did you investigate other circulation, or did traffic engineering have any thoughts on that?
We did not evaluate any other configurations. We were only evaluating what was proposed.
Okay.
So we did not evaluate any other configurations or alternate designs.
And your traffic department reviewed that and felt comfortable with the recommendation they were making?
They made it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
My name's John Bohart. I live at 4616 Renwood Drive. We had a traffic analysis done. I'm hearing from you folks. How does that traffic analysis justify the additional dumping of all the traffic on Renwood? How can they estimate the impact of all 180 spots, or 80, dumping out on Renwood going southbound or going northbound? I understand the population of the school has stayed the same. It's been pretty steady, 500 kids, but we haven't had a concentration of vehicles moving out of that lot and dumping down Renwood. We've had kids parked on David, somebody mentioned that, and they continue to travel east down to Marshall Road. That is, and they've had a few accidents, I read that. I just don't know that you can really justify the impact of all of that traffic dumping onto Renwood in your study, because it hasn't happened yet. It's something that I guess they're assuming that impact of the traffic going on to Renwood would be negligible, I don't know. But it seems to me like you're taking all the cars off of David You're taking the cars that are parked on Redwood, you're putting them in there, and you're dumping them out onto southbound Redwood for the most part. Because you can only get, somebody said, I think 5 or 6 cars if you want to turn left out of the lot before you're backed up to the lot at the stop sign. Now, maybe they'll get out a little quicker because there aren't cars on David going eastbound, but still you're dumping a lot of traffic onto Renwood all at one time. And I don't know that it's possible to have done that type of analysis without it actually happening. I don't know. But it seems like a lot of additional cars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Terswole in 913 East David Road. Just a suggestion, maybe ask the students just not to go back in the neighborhood. Yeah, I can understand all the concerns. How about if you have like a traffic person at the exit on Renwood, make everybody go left, and maybe you need another traffic person right there at Renwood and David, everybody go right. When you're going right, you're going past parks, you're not going past anybody's house. I mean, they're on the other side of the street. And then everybody turn right on Marshall. I mean, I guess I don't see the point of inconveniencing the neighborhood and the concern of the children. Inconvenience the students a little bit. I mean, they can turn right on Marshall. Marshall is a big wide street. And then they go down Marshall and either, you know, go on Ron or wherever. So you're dispersing the students into the larger streets, not back into Renwood and in that area. David Road has commercial traffic too, which no one has mentioned that. I mean, I've seen semis. Every once in a while there's a semi. But you have commercial traffic on David too. But it's easier to make a right-hand turn on David than make a left onto David. And access the large streets like Marshall. They may be backed up a little bit there with the traffic light, but the students have to learn to be patient. The other thing, maybe not let the sophomores drive. I know the parents would probably hate that, but I trucked our daughter around for years. You know, maybe only let juniors and seniors drive. Just a thought. The other thought I had was, you know, those little strips they put on the street where you do the counting. Maybe when school starts, put those out on David, Renwood, you know, Ackerman or whatever, and just count the traffic. You know, it won't only be student traffic, it'll be other traffic too. Just a couple thoughts I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy Terswole again, 913 East David Road. I worked at Wright-Patterson for about 40 years, and I actually started the first van pool to ever come to Wright-Patterson. And I was just wondering if you all charge the students to park. You do charge them? Okay, what about if you waive the fee or make it half if they carpool? Have two, I'm sure some of them live near each other or they pass by. I think that might help the traffic situation. The other thing is that from the rear parking lot, not the one that you're showing here, but from the one behind the school, there are actually two escapes. One onto Renwood, which again is probably easiest to make a right. But then if they go west past the old St. Charles Convent, I think it was, which you now have as some kind of a building, then they can go out to David that way and make a right also. Lefts are difficult no matter where you are, especially onto David.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, guys. I sort of go back to whether or not we think that the expansion of the parking lot is worthy to be approved or not, separate from circulation, because obviously we've got language in here that ties in the circulation to the, you know, which currently dumps all the outbound onto Renwood. So, I mean.
So
do
the
we-
question is the parking lot
The question is,
expansion?
do we think that, you know, is there, you know, should we make them build a parking garage? And if last time
I don't-
anybody's
I don't
tried
think-
to,
I don't think that's a
if somebody
practical
wants to
solution.
donate millions and millions of dollars, then, you know, maybe it's for consideration, but
No.
typically it's not, so.
Well, we also have a height limit. We can't do that.
Well, I mean, the point was, is
Yeah.
that, you know, because at the end of the day, if there is going to be an expanded parking, then that's where it's
Ingress
just.
and egress is my only concern. I
Right.
think the parking
Yeah, they
lot-
have every
I think
reason.
parking lot's a great idea.
They have every reason to expect expansion of parking.
No, I mean, I'm comfortable. I look at the plan, and there's multiple exit points out of the school. Kids are going to find the point of least resistance. So not all 180 cars are going to go out one entrance. There's other ways to get around this lot. And any adult or any kid's going to find the quickest way to get out of the parking lot. So I feel there's ample opportunity for them to egress from this site without creating a massive amount of concern on the Renwood. Is there more traffic? Absolutely. You're putting them in one spot. I don't disagree with that one bit. But there's other ways to get around there, so I feel comfortable with that. There's not a...
Excuse
No.
me, if you want to address the commission, you'll need to come down to the lectern. I can't have everybody all yelling over each other at the same time.
There's two exits off, and correct me if I'm wrong here, staff. There's two exits off of Renwood, right? And there's one right turn onto David, correct? And then there's a left and right onto Ackerman.
There's not a right turn on David.
There's no left turn onto David. I agree. There's a right turn.
either.
No, on the second, by the church there is.
He's going to pull up the.
There's the aerial image that might help you out with looking at that and thinking about how that's circulating.
So if you go to the new proposed flow plan. Yeah.
Well,
Mrs. Lambert had it up in her slides.
Yeah, the proposed flow did not address any of the current parking areas. It was only in regards to the parking lot expansion in the northeast.
Northeast corner.
Yeah, which, that northeast parking lot, while it connects to the south, it is intended, I think, it's intended to function on its own. So if you're in that north parking lot, you're not supposed to go into the rest of the campus to find your way out. I assume that it's possible, but I don't think you're supposed to. Maybe the applicant can speak to that.
Maybe if you could pull the image where the blue arrows were showing the direction of traffic that they're planning, it would show that specific exit, the exit onto Renwood is all of those cars in the front lot are only to exit
Right.
out that way. That's
We
the
agree.
concern. Okay.
Well, the question I have is you cannot go to the south there at that, to the south side of the school. Is that not an exit?
Well, you've also got all of these guys.
It's not? Okay.
Going there.
Here,
Oh, so that'll be blocked off?
they can come in.
There's only a pedestrian connection between north and
Oh, it appeared to
central
be a
parking
driveway to
lots.
me.
There's no connection.
Okay, I stand corrected. I apologize.
Yep.
Yeah, there's the,
Okay. Yeah, I thought we were connected here,
right.
but you're saying no,
Well,
as they just said so. Okay.
so do we have a way forward here saying yes to the parking lot, and then maybe, once again, versus going back to the, when you go back to the same engineer, they'll say, well, this is my recommendation.
What about if we have yeah. I thought we had the reasoning given to us, but I'm not sure we all agree on it then.
Well, I think that's the point.
How do we agree then? What will it take for us to get there? Any suggestions from anybody? Ken, you've gone through this before. What do you think?
I mean, as I look at this picture, I think of like the exit at Fairmont. At the front entrance at Fairmont, we have the right turn only out of that front lot. I know they don't look, curb cuts are not allowed to have new curb cuts, so it seems to me like if there was a curb cut here at the front to handle half of that flow of traffic onto David East, the rest of it onto Renwood, that would alleviate a lot of that traffic heading to Renwood, but I'm not an engineer. But I do think that's a lot of traffic to put onto Renwood and into the neighborhood all of a sudden.
Okay, how many cars are we talking about as opposed to what you're used to?
I'm not sure that off the top of my head.
I'm sorry, somebody was just up at the thing and we were having a discussion here. If you have something to add.
Patty Wonder, 4532 Renwood. I was just going to say, but I think the study should be done when they're in school and they can see what Renwood looks like now. And we're kind of separating this as the new parking lot and the old parking lot. But the old parking lot, people are coming out, all those cars are also coming on Renwood. To my knowledge, that's how they get out. Because I don't think they're allowed to go up and go out on Ackerman, are they? Do they do that? Yes. Okay, well, we get a lot of cars on Renwood. So I just don't understand why somebody that is an engineer couldn't just look at the situation as it's happening when school gets out. Come look at it in the morning when school's going in, come look at it when school's getting out, and then give an opinion.
I think the fallacy in that, as far as I'm concerned, is you get a snapshot of one day. I don't think that's good enough.
Well, then they should do it 5 days. I mean, it is.
I think when
it's
you've
the same
collected
thing every day.
Okay. I guess I was thinking when you've collected data over a period of time, that's more responsible.
Yeah, if I might, the concern is obviously traffic through the neighborhood. I don't think I'm. I think I'm summarizing that pretty well.
That's the flashpoint right now. Yes.
And we mentioned it up front. Like for instance, the last speaker, the concern of, even though there is exit onto Ackerman, there's exit on David, still a concern of traffic. There's exiting right now onto Renwood. There's traffic on Renwood. I want to remind everyone that there are, especially at the end of the year, there are plus or minus 40, 50 cars on Renwood parked facing southward on Renwood that have no other option but to go south on Renwood. So we're taking those cars off of Renwood. Now they are given the option to go back onto Renwood as an egress, and based upon the analysis, it's more likely that they will, if they're headed south, rather than going through the neighborhood, the slower neighborhood streets, because there's an assumption evidently that all kids speed, it would be faster to go onto, if that is the assumption, it would be faster to go onto David and Marshall where there are higher speed limits. But we do not know that. We do not know what that would be. What you're asking for is a traffic study once this is installed. Then that information and data can be analyzed. We cannot traffic study this. We can only traffic analyze its potential impact and probable scenarios. So if a traffic study was desired post-construction, I don't think that's a problem. I think that's valuable. But a traffic study right now doesn't tell us anything we don't already know, or anything that we can utilize for the design and
understanding the impact of this. I think earlier, the last meeting, everyone said traffic study, in the same way someone says Kleenex to facial, it's just an understanding of traffic. So the difference between traffic study and traffic analysis was just sort of lost. The analysis is the only thing that can help us understand the impact. I think everyone needs to understand Alter's goal is not to increase traffic into the neighborhood. Alter is trying to be a good neighbor, get the cars off of the streets right now that are clearly a problem. So the other option is just leave the parking on the streets. I don't think anyone wants that. So this is the solution. Get the cars off the streets, onto the campus, and then make it the most efficient egressing system available based upon the existing curb cuts that are in play.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, why don't I propose an idea? I'd like to suggest that we table this for the moment and maybe have a separate workshop with the commission and city staff and the traffic engineer, and maybe we can put some ideas together, because I think we're at an impasse. That's just my opinion. I don't see us moving forward at this point, unless we want to have a vote.
We could move forward on the parking lot.
Right. Tom, do you have, Mr. Robillard, you have?
Sure, just a couple of thoughts. One, Mr. Sheets is right that we can't study something that's not there.
Right.
We can analyze what the potential impact are. May I suggest that so for let's say a year after this is built, that we reanalyze what it is that the impacts are, and then have our traffic engineers make some suggestions on the impacts that can be mitigated from that. So yes, it's kicking the can down the road a little bit, but we only know that this is the proposal and that the circulation is going to be, a certain amount that we know. It's not going to be a study because it's not there. So my suggestion is, let's take a look at it a year after it's built, see what the impacts are, and come up with mitigation measures from that.
I think that sounds
This will take
reasonable.
students off the streets and put them on the campus. It will give them alternative means of exiting. So there is good parts to that. Is it going to put another, extra 60 cars or so exiting out onto Renwood from that parking lot? Yes, but those students are already parking on Renwood already, so it's balancing out what you're poisoning.
I think that sounds like a reasonable solution to me.
Ray is not convinced. Is your issue with the parking lot, or just the issue of, and this is where I was just saying, if we look at the condition number 1, which basically just says that at this point, based on that condition, we're locking them into, this is what the circulation has to be. Give them the flexibility, because we're not adding any new curb cuts. Those are the circulation points that it currently exists. Obviously, we're putting, additional cars out front. But like I said, once it's, in place, or if additional studies done in the meantime, analysis, then, and the best analysis is to see, okay, yeah, we've got it now, and how can we make this work best?
That's one way to do it.
I'd like to be able to see changes made if necessary.
Right. So you had mentioned a workshop with whomever all is there. What would your best case scenario outcome from that be?
Well, I was thinking about Troy's, when he was looking at the map, was
Mhm.
taking cut-throughs that didn't exist. Maybe what would happen if a cut-through were made through here, paved through into the main part of the parking lot behind, as one idea. That would allow this connection to be, change the whole traffic pattern to go to the south as one idea. And allow a lot of these cars to exit other spaces.
There's a building there. That's the Fine Arts Building right now. That's the old Seton Hall, and this is the connection to that end of the parking lot, and that is St. Charles Church there.
There's no gap there.
Well, not to connect to your other one. I mean, this takes you out to David Road. Yeah, that's the new Fine Arts Performance Building. There is no ability to connect there.
I get that idea.
I mean, I want us to get to the right solution, and you had made a proposal, and I just want to understand what sort of actionable stuff do we hope to achieve? So one, if we were to do something like that, we have the right parties involved to achieve the best solution for Alter and the neighbors. If this is the parking lot, if we're saying that is not an option for expanded parking due to whatever, then the cars stay on Renwood and the cars stay on David, and so at this point, I think just a function of, do we think that that's ultimately the best solution based on how students will exit out, and to try to once again continue to drive through the surface streets, or to go out to David, Menor Marshall, or some of the larger
Right now,
arterials.
the way it is, it's the only solution. That's the bad part. It's the only solution. I don't know what mitigation is.
Well, I mean, mitigations could be is that versus just one in and out. I mean, you let them back out that end. Whether that's has other issues that's not necessarily showing up right here in terms of stacking distance and everything else that's going on.
Ken, what do you think?
Mr. Relevard's idea of a traffic study afterwards is there's some value in it. I guess I understand it's hard to analyze the traffic when it's not even in an existing configuration and in place.
Maybe it's just getting
I don't love it, but I guess I can live with that solution.
I don't see an obvious solution to me tonight. So,
What would it take to find one?
well, that's why I'm saying maybe taking a step back, fresh breath. Maybe we'll see something, maybe we won't. Maybe there is no obvious solution. Maybe there is no good solution. We might just come back to the same point we're at tonight and say, this is it. Nothing wrong with that. Come back to the same point and say, okay.
That is an option.
That's certainly an option. I'm just not seeing it.
I just think you're going to have a challenge trying to figure out other options when we had professionals already look at it.
Mr. Rathman,
Hello.
Mr. Rathman, can we make sure that everybody speaks into the microphones?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I was merely commenting that if we take a step back and postpone this, and in summary, we may come back to the exact same position we're at tonight, which is okay. You know, we may still wind up at the same spot we are here today, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not seeing a great solution to this tonight.
So I guess a couple of things that come to my mind is, number one, there is 5E. It doesn't, the vote does not need to be unanimous.
Right.
And I know you know that already. If this proceeding was tabled, it would have to be done in a public hearing like this. And we would need to know, we would need some real specific direction as to what it is you want us to do. Or not just us, but us and or the applicant. Finally is that, you know, the proposal before you tonight is what's before you. And you either like it or you don't is the approach that you can take, is typically what you would take. You wouldn't, you can suggest alternatives, but you know, they're asking, the applicant is asking, you know, is this okay? Is this okay to proceed? You know, based on our analysis, based on our traffic engineer's analysis, based on the applicant's engineer's analysis, we think this will work fine with those conditions as far as traffic circulation goes. If there is still concern after that, like I suggested earlier, that we step back and investigate the impacts of the circulation and come up with other potential mitigation factors. It would not be I'm going to just clarify, it wouldn't be a traffic study. To traffic engineers, a traffic study is a very specific thing. A traffic analysis is a very specific thing. What they want to look at is what are the impacts of this parking situation, and is there ways to mitigate the negative impacts that might be happening because of it. We think it's going to be fine, but we can always take a look at it, like I said, a year after it's built.
I'm good with that.
Well, let's press on.
Okay. If you've got a comment here, I think we're at a point where we're getting ready to close the public hearing, so.
Right, yeah. Andy Terswell again, 913 East David Road. I just had a question, I think, probably for the Alter people, but on the area that is now the proposed parking lot is a large grassy area, and we have noticed that the Pee Wee football kids will practice there probably the same time that the big football kids are in the back. And have you made any kind of provision for where they would practice? Okay, good, because they probably want to sort of grassy area. Okay, thank you.
All right, so Ken, I know you were on the table thing, so if you'd rather not read the motion, if you want to, if Ms. Fisher wants to do that, or
No, Ken's
Mr.
got it
Herder?
all in her head. He's taking.
Well, but I
I'll
mean,
read
if at some level he's making a motion, I would assume he wants to support it, and before we jump right into it, we're going to need to close the public hearing and
Yeah.
do whatever.
I will support it with Tom's recommendation.
Okay. So once again, in terms of that, and with the number one, in terms of, you know, whether we want to say, you know, initially to have the circulation run that way, and then maybe after, you know, it's deemed by, you know, Alter no later than 1 year, you know, do another traffic analysis to
I've got some language
determine
here
if-
I can try.
Okay, all right.
Give it a shot.
Right, so we're getting close to the point here where I think we're going to close the public hearing. So last opportunity, if anybody wishes to address the commission, now's your opportunity.
Hi, Teresa Kennison on Renwood. For your information, you were wrong. There's 25 cars that parks on Renwood, and there's like 45 parks on David. And when they leave David, they come down Renwood. They all do go south. There's not, you know, all them cars that's on David now does not go to Marshall. They cut through on Renwood. That's maybe 50 cars. I can't even imagine 163 coming down Renwood, because they're not going to go out on David. I can guarantee you that. You may have 30 to go out on David because they're kids. They're going to take the shortest way to get out of the Platte, and that's going to go through the neighborhood. Not on David, because you can't get out on David because it's going to be too busy, because you're going to have buses, you're going to have parents, and you're going to have all those cars. That's their last option, is to go on David, and they're not going on David. They're all heading towards Renwood and Pepper Hill. I was just letting you know. You need to come over and look next week when school starts. Just drive up and down Renwood and Pepper Hill. Drive up and down through there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Drive up and down through there at 3 o'clock. Any day, every day, whatever. It's the same way every day. I would rather leave the cars on Renwood and David instead of putting the parking lot in for a year. And then try to have to come back in here and do this all over. That's crazy, when you guys can solve it all at one time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
All right, if no one else wishes to address the commission, at this point, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All right, call the roll, please. Ray.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Woski?
Yes.
Mr. Lackey?
Yes.
Mr. Urbis?
Yes.
Mr. Rethman?
Yes. I would just ask, if you're going to leave before we finish the meeting, that you can keep your voices down as you exit, and if you're going to have any conversations, please hold them outside, because it's all open. Thank you. All right, Mr. Lackey, if you've got something here.
Oh, wait, we just moved. We didn't vote on closing the public hearing.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
We did?
You seconded.
Oh, okay, I didn't.
You did, you seconded.
You okay, Ray?
I
You got
seconded
blood
it,
sugar
but I
thing?
didn't- but I didn't vote.
Oh, well, I said your name.
You did.
Oh, I thought I was just seconding the motion.
No,
You did both.
I said your name.
I guess I'm okay.
You okay? I mean, you're not having blood sugar, are you?
Maybe it's blood sugar low.
Okay, I mean, all right.
I have a
Okay.
conditional use approval for Alter High School, 940 East David Road. Whereas an application has been received from Jason Sheets, Mode 4 Design and Architecture, agent for Archbishop Alter High School, requesting approval for conditional use amendment located at 940 East David Road. And whereas the Planning Commission has reviewed the facts surrounding this request, including an oral and written report by city staff, which is incorporated herein, and held a public hearing on May 20th, 2024 and August 5th, 2024. And whereas this request constitutes approval of a conditional use amendment to allow the expansion of the existing parking lot located in the northeast quadrant of the campus, located nearest the intersection of East David and Redwood Drive. Whereas the Planning Commission adopts the findings of facts presented by staff in their report, which is incorporated into this motion, I move that the applicant's request for approval for a conditional use amendment to allow the expansion of the existing parking lot located in the northeast quadrant of the campus, located nearest the intersection of East David Road and Renwood Drive, be approved with the following conditions. Per the recommendation of the traffic consultant, signage be installed designated one-way inbound traffic from David Road, two-way traffic for inbound and outbound traffic on Renwood Drive, and designating circulation within the northeast parking in a counterclockwise direction. And, per the recommendation of the traffic consultant, reduce congestion by increasing the gap between the start and end times for Alter High School and St. Charles to no less than 20 minutes in the morning and no less than 25 minutes in the afternoon. 3, per the recommendation of the traffic consultant, extend the westbound median break for left turns on David Road at the northeast parking area entrance driveway by 60 feet to a total of 100 feet. The 2 large oak trees located along David Road frontage, as shown in Alter's presentation as is discussed this evening, will be saved. Parking lot lights within the expanded area shall be turned off each evening at no later than 10 p.m. and shall remain off until the following evening unless the expanded lot is in use for a specific event. Within a year of the parking lot opening, the city traffic department will analyze the traffic flow and make recommendations to mitigate the negative impacts to the community, make that neighborhood. I'll reread that. Within a year of the parking lot opening, the city traffic department will analyze the traffic flow and make recommendations to mitigate the negative impacts to the neighborhood and any safety issues.
If I could just make one suggestion to that last condition, that the report be presented to the Planning Commission at that time.
Okay. Do I need to reread that?
You probably just the last part.
Just add
Okay.
that on to your
Okay.
statement.
In addition, the report from the traffic department should be presented to the Planning Commission at its conclusion.
Do I have a second?
That's the end of the motion.
Second.
Any discussion on that proposed motion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Lackey?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Urbis?
Yes.
Mr. Woski?
Yes.
Mr. Rethman?
Yes. All right, next item on the agenda is audience participation for any items not on the agenda. We have a big crowd tonight, so if anybody was waiting this entire time to ask us some questions or have concerns about something, now is your opportunity. Seeing as that no one is coming forward for that particular item, signing of plats. Communications and reports.
One for me, the city council asked that we provide some zoning code training to them. We contacted a renowned zoning code training person, Greg Dale is his name, to come down and give this presentation to our city council, just so that the city council has a better understanding of what zoning code is, how it works, how it functions in different places. The city council wanted to invite the planning commission and the BZA to that session as well. It'll be about an hour and a half, and it is scheduled for October 22nd. It should, I believe it'll start at 5:30. That specific time has not been set yet, but if you write that down in your calendar for 5:30, you'd be very safe.
Tom, did you say October 22nd or 27th?
22nd.
22nd.
Yeah. The second thing is staff is moving forward with contracting for our comprehensive plan, assistance to put together our comprehensive plan. Last Friday was the deadline to submit proposals. We received 4 proposals, so we're analyzing those right now to come up with the best group to help us through that. One of the things I wanted to make sure that you knew that you will be directly involved in that comprehensive plan, number one. Number two, the part of the purpose is to also implement many of the strategies that were outlined in the strategic plan. So they will both coincide together, and so you'll be involved in that. And did everybody get a copy of the strategic plan? Okay, great. So a couple extra copies if you want. That's all I have. Ryan, David?
Hey, Ken, did I get you your copy of the strategic plan?
I don't have a copy of it.
Okay.
There you
I think
go.
I think you were had an excused absence when I had those. I believe
Okay.
it's still sitting on my desk. So.
Planning Commission comments.
Nothing.
None.
All right. With that, we will adjourn this regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Kettering Planning Commission for Monday, August 5th, 2024 at 9:25 p.m. until our next regularly scheduled meeting.